Hello and welcome to Strat News Global. I am Ashwin Ahmad and I am in conversation with Professor Chintamani Mahapatra, Head of American Studies at JNU. And today we are going to be discussing the upcoming visit of President Trump to India. Professor, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, sir, let's talk about the optics. He's coming at an election year, first official visit to India. What do you think are the optics on the world stage and what are the key takeaways for both the countries?
You know, optics these days are more important than in the past, partly because of the IT revolution and partly because of the social media and cable news. Now, when Donald Trump is coming to India, the optics basically is going to be in Ahmedabad and the substance is going to be in New Delhi. In Ahmedabad, apparently, he is going to inaugurate the largest cricket stadium in the world.
Yes.
And the total population in the U.S. is about 300 million. We are 1 billion plus people. He was awestruck when he saw Prime Minister Modi in Houston. So many people greeted him. And this time it is going to be Namaste Trump. So he's pretty excited, and I think it will certainly impress him that he will be talking to lakhs of people in a stadium. And back home, when the Indian Americans will be watching that Donald Trump has gone to India and he has spoken to the Indian people, the general assumption is he will be able to get some support from the Indian American community when the Americans go for the election in November. But whether these optics are really going to be realized, it is very doubtful in my view. For simple reason, this is undermining the intelligence of the Indian American citizens in the USA.
Right.
They will vote on the basis of their conscience rather than the president going to India and then talking to people.
Right.
And most of the news headlines that they're connecting the American election with the optics in Ahmedabad, it could be pretty misplaced one.
Sir, now you're right. Let's talk about the substance. And the main issue is trade or the lack of a possible trade deal happening. Sir, do you think that will be a major impediment? Because President Trump is seen as a transactional president. He is known, he's signed a phase 1 deal with China. He's done NAFTA with Mexico, etc. The fact that he doesn't have a trade deal, do you think it will hurt us?
It is certainly hurting us already. If we have a deal, certainly it is going to be good for India. We have faith in our diplomats as well as those who are negotiating the trade. And we hope that after the bargain is done and we have a deal, that will certainly satisfy both the sides. It's going to be a compromise deal, certainly. And if there is no deal, then will it really affect India negatively? There is no doubt about it that sooner the deal is done, better it is. And one would expect that when Donald Trump comes here, the deal is signed and it will be win-win for both. When President Trump is saying that the big deal is yet to be made and it may take a few more months, and it may so happen that when the Americans go for the vote in November, the Indo-US trade deal might not have been signed. There are two ways of looking at it. One can see the positive side as well as the negative side.
Right.
If you see the positive side, Donald Trump being a great bargainer, and he's a great bargainer because the developments are really supporting him. At this moment, the Europeans are down because of Brexit.
Right.
At this moment, the Chinese are pretty disappointed because of the coronavirus.
Right.
At this point, the Indians are very unhappy because of the economic growth rate slowing down. And the United States economy is doing very well.
Yes.
So Trump has a lot of things to support him. That is why he's talking like this. Probably if the American economy would not be doing as well as it is happening there, if the American unemployment rate would have been more than what it is today, I think Donald Trump would be pushing India that we must have a deal when I come. I just can't come and meet you, shake hand and go back. I want a deal. So at the moment, I think the wind is blowing in favor of the United States.
Sir, already, some stern measures have been taken by the US. I mean, I'm talking about GSP. Do you think the pressure will continue perhaps even after the visit, for India to make concessions?
Here, first of all, I would appreciate the way the government has reacted to lifting the GSP from India. Now, for a long time, when India-US relationship was being discussed and debated, many people did not even realize the kind of benefits we are getting from the United States. And suddenly Trump discovers that this is an area where he can really push down Indians more and more. And when the GSP was lifted, about 2,000 types of different goods and commodities going to the USA without any tariff, that was a big advantage and all. However, I would like to underline as an academic that if Donald Trump thinks that he is really pushing down India by lifting that GSP, ultimately it is going to affect even the United States negatively. There are many things that happen and people see just the optics.
Right.
For example, many Americans think that their government is giving tremendous amount of economic assistance to developing countries around the world. In reality, for every $1 that goes as a foreign assistance to another country, the Americans ultimately get back $4 in return.
Yes.
But the optics is they are helping and these guys are the recipient. Likewise, when the GSP benefit was given to India, China and many others, certainly it was benefiting India.
Right.
But if the Americans think that it was just a benefit bestowed upon Indians, it is actually wrong.
Yes.
Right. So I think people who are really doing the trade deal will ultimately settle down and will come to a good compromise. And if Donald Trump says that a big deal is in the offing, I think it is going to be a big compromise. If it takes some more time, it is okay. And the way the government of India has reacted, it's not panicking. Okay, all right, we are no longer India of 1947, it's 2020, we'll handle it. That is the best way to bargain with Trump.
Sir, I want to move now from economics, trade to the issue of Kashmir. Now, President Trump is coming at a time when the UN SG is making certain comments about Kashmir. He's been quite vocal about it. We have 4 US senators, among them is Lindsey Graham, who has also made certain observations on Kashmir. So, sir, do you think India would be looking at, President Trump to make some kind of, assuaging statement? Do you also think that perhaps he may demand even more concessions for doing so? What is your view?
I look at it slightly differently. Donald Trump is not the only president so far to raise issues on Kashmir. Worse things have been said even by Robin Raffel when Clinton became the president. She challenged the legal validity of the instrument of accession which made Kashmir part of India. And Indians became angry and exasperated and they shouted back. Ultimately, Robin Raffel's boss, Peter Tanoff, had to come to India and apologize and repeat that the US position on Kashmir remains the same. Now, Donald Trump apparently has twice shown his interest in offering his good office and all.
Yes.
I do not even know why he's doing it. If it is good office, then both the parties should say yes. Nobody should be offering the good offices around and all. But after all, he is playing a balancing game. This side is Pakistan, which is a strategic ally, and the strategic ally will remain so as long as the American troops are there in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And this side is India, which is a robust strategic partner. That is why Donald Trump is shifting from position to position on Kashmir. My take is this.
Yes.
On India, he will be dead silent on Kashmir issue.
Okay.
On the Indian soil, he cannot raise the Kashmir issue when the government of India, successive governments of India, have repeatedly been saying partly Kashmir is an internal matter. If there is anything to do with our neighbor, it's a bilateral one and we'll talk to them. We don't need any foreign interference. And I think Trump's advisors must have told him, like it happened to Obama also.
Right.
He also appointed somebody to look after India, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Again, that failed. So, in the backdrop of a series of failures of American attempt to intervene in Kashmir, I think Trump, a smart man, would follow the same.
So you expect a statement from him
I
in support of
expect
India?
that he will be totally silent. No, I don't think Donald Trump is going to support India on Kashmir.
Okay.
I don't think Donald Trump will say anything which will hurt Indian sentiment on Kashmir.
Okay.
Most likely he will keep quiet on that.
Okay. Now I want to come, sir, to another issue that India will certainly be concerned about. The US is talking to the Taliban. There is much report. We don't know what is happening, but reportedly there is going to be a deal, some kind of deal at the end of February. It is likely some US troops may leave. Now, where does this leave India? And I'm sure Prime Minister Modi and President Trump will have discussions about this. But what is your assessment of the US Taliban talks? Where does it leave India?
One problem that I see is India being kept out of any kind of dialogue with the Taliban.
Right.
For a long time, India did not want to talk to Taliban. India always opposed Taliban. The American government, starting with Barack Obama, they slightly changed their position on the Taliban issue. Obama said there are good Taliban and bad Taliban, let us talk to only good Taliban. India vehemently opposed it. You cannot distinguish Taliban between good and the bad, they are all Taliban. Right.
Right.
Before that, let us start with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had a good deal with Taliban, and when the Unocal company was about to invest for a gas pipeline, Taliban was there in power, and Bill Clinton was pretty silent on Taliban's negative activities and all. And then, of course, comes the 9/11 incident. Americans came very heavily upon Taliban. Later, they realized that all Taliban are not terrorists. Some terrorists are Taliban.
Yes.
So one has to distinguish between the terrorists and the Taliban. Then they thought the best way would be to find out which are the Taliban, which don't want to promote any kind of terrorist activities.
Right.
They have their own agenda, own religion. They want to have their government of their choice. It's okay. That attempt was made. But when Barack Obama said it openly, that there are good Taliban and bad Taliban, it was such a bad strategy. I mean, even if they are good Taliban and bad Taliban, you identify and talk to them. The moment you say openly, Taliban united, oh, this guy wants to divide us, right? It's a very bad strategy. Now, the problem with India is this. India has invested about $2-3 billion in Afghanistan. And Indo-Afghan relationship goes back to the centuries.
Right.
Now, any kind of peace and stability that are being attempted in Afghanistan, if a country like India is kept out, and subsequently Iran is kept out because Donald Trump doesn't like Iran, and the Russians are out, although they are a major power next door, it is going to fizzle out as it has done in the past. There cannot be a temporary settlement involving only Pakistan and the Taliban and the United States. It will be disastrous for the United States.
Correct. So, sir, now two other issues of concern for India. One would be our tentative approach saying Huawei can go in for the 5G trials, which obviously will upset the US. That is, I'm sure, will come up. The second thing, sir, is regarding the Indian Ocean. Yeah, there is probably going to be some kind of document regarding India-US partnership, but at the same time, the Philippines have cancelled the troop deal with the US. So that means less American presence in the Indian Ocean. Do you see that affecting the countering China strategy?
You see, thousands of American troops are still there in Japan. Thousands of them are there in South Korea.
Right.
Philippines have been saying yes and then no and then again yes and then again no.
Right.
The Duterte is a president who is very unreliable. He's making very strong statements, sometimes against America, and sometimes he is going closer towards China. At another time, he's changing the role. So, Philippines at the moment, the two largest American military bases were there in the Philippines, Clark Air Force Base and Civic Naval Base. They are no longer there.
Right.
So, they had only a status of force agreement by which the American soldiers could go back to Philippines anytime they wanted to. But so long as Australia, South Korea and Japan are there, Philippines don't matter right now.
Right.
But you are right and I agree with you. When Donald Trump comes to India, one of the flagship announcements that's going to be made almost certainly is on Indo-Pacific. Now this is an area where there is convergence of both interest as well as policy between India and the United States. Now, Indo-Pacific is a new concept. The Chinese don't like it. They think Indians are getting highlighted. But the Americans are looking at it in a different way. This side Indian Ocean, that side Pacific Ocean, you cannot have two different oceans in an area which is increasingly getting integrated. Partly the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and then you have ASEAN Regional Forum and APEC and all that. So the Americans, instead of having two different commands, now they combine it called Indo-Pacific Command. From the Indian perspective, it is very important, because if the Chinese look at Indian Ocean as a very important area where they get raw materials from Africa, and of course the oil and other carbon resources from the Middle East, India also finds that South China Sea, or what the Vietnamese call East Sea, is equally important for India's trade and other economic activities, partly because of the Act East policy. India's trade with ASEAN countries, with South Korea, Japan rising by the day. So that is why Indo-Pacific is a good concept for India.
So finally, now what next? He will come here. It will be over. It's election time in the U.S. That's traditionally the time not much will happen on the foreign policy front. So at least till November we don't expect much. But where do you see us going, perhaps post November?
All right. Now you see, it is not proper to expect too much from a summit meeting.
Right.
Suppose the trade deal. Donald Trump did not have to come all the way to India to sign a trade deal.
Right.
It could have been signed in New Delhi or Washington DC by USTR and our Commerce Secretary or Finance Minister or whoever. It could have been done.
Yes.
Now, why is he coming then? Why is it so significant for India? You know, it has multiple dimensions. Now, how many American presidents cared for India? Not many. For about 12 years after India became independent, no American president came to India. It was way back in 1959, Eisenhower came for a short time. It's only in the post-Cold War era, particularly starting with Bill Clinton's trip in March 2000, then there has been a consistent visit by the American presidents to India to highlight that India-US relationship is actually a paradigm shift in America's global strategy, grand strategy. So it is significant in that context. It is more than optics, it is more than symbolic. Secondly, when the heads of states meet more often, it is good for the bilateral relationship overall. If the relationship is going in a very positive direction, then it is going to be further push in that direction. If there are differences in the relationship coming up, and the strategic partnership or alliance relationship or good trade and investment relationship are going nowhere, then a meeting of this kind is useful to stop the erosion of relationship. So in that context, when Donald Trump is coming to India, it is a very positive thing, both for the United States and India. When you talk about personalities like Prime Minister Narendra Modi here or Donald Trump there, it has a different meaning altogether. It is also correct that Prime Minister Modi went to the United States in Houston in the presence of so many hundreds of thousands of people there. He endorsed Donald Trump. And soon after that, Donald Trump got into the impeachment trial. Then many Indians begin to worry, oh my God, our PM goes there and backs him up, and this guy is going to face impeachment, he may be out of White House, then what would happen to India? Trump turned out to be a lucky guy. Now he's coming to India. So maybe he's hoping personally, if Modi would again back him up, which he's going to do, then certainly some Gujarati votes and some other Indian American vote will go to him. It may be a drop in the ocean, but this drop is going to be important for him. That is from his perspective. From from Indian perspective, Modi government perspective, you know, in the second term, in the beginning or early months of the second term, this government has taken so many drastic steps about so many controversial issues. Now, the US Congress is so critical about certain issues that support of the White House is important to maintain that relationship.
Right.
Many Indians, including the analysts, they sometimes react in a knee-jerk fashion. oh, such and such member of the House of Representatives has said so, such and such congressional committee has said so, and we panic sometimes. But the American foreign policy making process is so complex. We know there is a kind of tug of war between the White House and the Congress, and they have the checks and balances. So it is important for this government to stay in touch with the White House.
Yes.
In that context, this relationship is crucial.
Yes. Professor Mahapatra, thank you so much for talking to us, and we'll be in touch with you for more. I'm Ashwin Ahmad. Thank you for watching.